Just go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your journey with dogs and how you ended up with the program you have now.
Okay, my name is Amy Higdon, and we currently have 9 of them, which we kind of stumbled upon. I grew up with English. We had had Old English before. We've had a couple of Americans. They had since all passed on, and so my husband is the one who actually found them. And when he told me that he wanted to get another bulldog, I was absolutely not doing it. Our previous bulldog had had a lot of issues, and I we have 5 kids. I didn't want another bulldog, as cute as they are, and as much as I liked them. I didn't want to. I didn't want to bring that in on our family. But he obviously convinced me that we were going to get just one as a pet, and I'm so happy he did. So we got our first one in 2018, and we got it strictly as a pet. His name was Con, and he was actually supposed to be my husband's dog, but that didn't work out so well because he was my partner in crime. So we got the first one, and it was a totally different breed, obviously, but they are so different. The temperament was different. They're The way they interact with kids was different. The way they interact, even just with our family, was so different. And I absolutely fell in love with it. So then, when he was on the same page and asked, like, what do you think about breeding? What if we worked with breeders in Brazil and we brought the breed here because there's so few here? I was absolutely all for it because there weren't very many here. I actually didn't know anybody else that had one. And it was the best family dog. Our kids were younger at the time, and I couldn't have asked for a better dog with our kids. It was a great family dog. We could take it anywhere. It was great with other animals, other dogs. It was just a super well-rounded dog. I jumped on board, and we've been doing it ever since.
And where did you get your first Bulldog?
From a breeder named Fernando Starling in Brazil. We had it imported to Seattle, and we went and picked it up there. And we actually still currently work with Fernando. He's our mentor.
And what was it like importing? How was that process?
Oh, it was so stressful. I mean, I know they do it all the time, and you hear all these horror stories, which there's always those in everything you do. But we had never, I mean, we had gotten dogs from other states, but never another country. So getting a dog from another country was super stressful. I mean, it went smoothly, and it was a great decision, but it's a big decision. I think sending money to any foreign country, even another country sending money to us as a breeder for one of our dogs, that's a huge risk that you take. So the first one was definitely nerve wracking. But once it got here, I knew even at the airport, I was ready to do it again.
What is it about them that has captivated you guys, into wanting to breed them and to showcase them here in the United States?
I would definitely say it would be how versatile they are. They're they have an on and off switch like no other breed of bulldog, and they're so much healthier than other breeds of bulldogs. So they can go from 100 miles an hour paddleboarding, soccer, running outside with the kids to come in and instantly shut it off. No longer hyper or high strung. They just have a different on and off switch. They're like the most athletic dog when you want them to be, and they're ready to go anytime. And as soon as you're ready to be done, they're absolutely ready to be done. And then the health factors was huge for us too. I didn't want a dog that had a lot of health issues, and they're definitely a breed that's known for being healthier in the bulldog world. And I can honestly say we've had no issues with ours other than routine shots and checkups. We've never had an issue. They do great in this cold weather, they do great in the heat. I mean, it gets to 110 here, and I take mine to the lake, river, paddle boarding with us. They play outside with the kids all day. So, being so versatile and being able to accommodate our family with what our family was used to doing was huge for us. I think it's like their makeup. So their structure is a little bit different. They're a little bit taller. They're a little bit longer. They're definitely leaner. They're meant to be lean. They're used for cattle and like guarding the homesteads in Brazil. So they're meant to be a leaner dog. They're a more athletic dog. Where oldies and English are a little shorter, wider. Their structure is a little different. So I think the makeup of them leads to them just being an overall healthier dog. And their muzzle's also meant to be a little bit longer, which leads to better breathing, more open nares, which is huge in a bulldog. And I think all of it combined just leads to an overall healthier breed of bulldog.
Can you talk about the history as you've learned it about the Campero and what has gone into the dogs? Uh, I know probably there's different theories and probably different strains and different, you know, dogs that have gone into them in the past and now in the present. Can you talk a little bit about what you've learned?
Definitely. So their ancestors are the Old English, but not like the OLDE today. It's like the old timer English and the American. And then there's also the Portuguese Mastiff that's extinct that has went into them, which makes them a great guardian dog. They're they're very they take their job very serious when it comes to guarding their family and home. But then the bulldog side of them makes them the more docile companion part. So I think mixing the two, the mastiff side for the guardian and working, and then adding in the bulldog, which is also a working breed, but in a different way. I think putting them together is what made up the breed as we know it today. And so today's breed of the Campero, a lot of them breed in like oldie because obviously the Portuguese Mastiff is extinct. And there's definitely a difference in the lines. So I have like the old bloodline, and then I have some of the newer bloodline that has like the oldie in it. And you can definitely see a difference. There's a huge difference. There's a difference in temperament. There's a difference in like their athleticism. There's a difference in their stubbornness. But overall, they're a great, well rounded dog.
So you would say the older lines have more stubbornness or more.
No, I would say the newer lines do.
Yeah.
Definitely. They have more of the old English in them, not the old timer or and not as much as the Portuguese Mastiff. So the
Mhm.
newer lines definitely are more stubborn. And the newer lines have like this the shorter snout, the more scrunched up face, where the older lines, their face is still a little bit longer.
Can you talk about as modern uses today in Brazil? Are they still using them for farm work?
Um, in parts of Brazil, yes, it depends on where you go in Brazil, but some of them absolutely. They use them a lot for on cattle ranches, horse ranches. They use them to like herd their cattle, sheep. guard their homes. Other parts just have them strictly as pets. There's a lot of them that use them as service dogs in Brazil. There's a few breeders that take them to children's hospitals or elderly homes, and they use them as service dogs because their temperament is they're very docile when it comes to children and elderly. But there's definitely still the use for them in Brazil. There's tons of ranches that still use them on a daily basis. I wish actually more people here in the United States would push them to be what they are meant to be. Everybody wants them for a healthy bulldog or a rare dog, which is fine, but they're capable of so much more. And it would be nice if there were more people here in the United States that realized like their capabilities to be used on a farm and put them to that use. We have one that we were at a friend's house and he has horses and he has dogs that herd horses, and she was on the outside of the corral and his dogs were bringing horses in, and she watched them twice and she jumped in there and did it herself. Never taught, just instinct, and she loves it. We don't live on a farm, so she's not used for that. She's just a family pet here, but it's definitely in her, and you see a different happy in them when they get to do the things that they're normally meant to do. The Brazilian bulldog, so the males are usually between 20 and 22 inches. The females are 19 to 21. The females are usually 75 to 85 pounds, the males 85 to 100 pounds. They're So looking at them from the top view, they are meant to be longer. The females are longer than the male, but compared to an oldie, they're definitely longer. And they're a lot more narrow, especially in the hip area. They're meant to be a very lean dog. They're meant to work, so they're meant to be lean. They have longer forearms than an oldie, longer snout than an oldie, or muzzle. Their bottom jaw is meant to protrude slightly, where Old English is not, that's not necessarily a standard. Another kind of funky thing is their tail. Their tail, I know Old English, if they have a kink in it, they usually dock them or they have a full tail. These do not have a full tail. None of them have a full tail, and they all have a knot in them, and it's like a miniature tail. So every tail has a knot or a kink, and that's actually breed standard. There's no full tail, which is definitely a difference. People ask us all the time, like, do they have full tails? Did you dock their tails? Nope. Or why would you dock it there? That's a funny length tail. That's their standard prig tail. There's no long tail and there's no dock tail.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Is there a story or a reason behind that? It,
I'm not really sure of why or how that came about. I just know that that's like, we're actually looking at some other dogs in Brazil the last couple of months, and they like that's one of the things they pointed out. Like, it has a perfect tail. Um, it's about 4 inches, gets pointy at the end, has the little knot in it, which is a funny thing to point out because most people don't point out a funny tail, which it's not funny for the breed, but it's funny to anybody who hasn't seen them. We always get asked, why does your dog have that funny tail, or why is there that knot in their tail? Which I'm not really sure why. I'll have to ask if that, like, how did that come about, or where did that come from that they got that funky tail?
yeah, that's interesting. That's cool though.
And you can definitely see the ones that have like more of the modern Old English in them. More of those have the corkscrew tail.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a bit of a controversy over there with kind of a division between the old school and new school?
Not no. I think it's become so common to breed the oldie into it. I mean, they only do it every so many generations. It's just become kind of a normal thing. And I just actually recently learned that in the past year because I was actually talking to Fernando and I was talking to him about the temperament of one of my males versus one of my other males and the difference in them and the difference in like color and stuff. And he was like, well, the reason Baloo is that color is he does have oldie in him. That's not a traditional Campero color. The difference in temperament is he does have oldie in him. When you breed the oldie in, it doesn't necessarily take away from, but it changes, which you can definitely see. The Campero has a much higher prey drive, much higher. But again, they have that off switch where they can be ready to work and have the high drive, prey drive, and as soon as you're done, they're done.
Can you talk about a little about their prey drive? Like I have a livestock guardian dog, which they don't have they don't have really a prey drive. They have a defensive drive. So when he chases the bunnies or the cats or the squirrels, it's because they're on the property and he wants them off. And he'll
Mhm,
dispatch of them if he catches them, but he doesn't pay him any mind if they're outside the fence line, his property line.
mhm.
Um, can you talk about what that drive is for a Campero?
Um, so again, I think it depends on how they're raised. We have some that have went to families that also raise chickens, and so they've been raised with baby chicks since birth. And while they had that prey drive in them, they were taught that no, this is not prey. This is part of the family. This is your friend. They live amongst us. And so they live amongst chickens and birds and cats, and their prey drive is basically taught out of them. Where the others, when you put them in those positions, you will definitely see the switch go on where the instinct kicks in that they are supposed to do something about it. But I wouldn't say that they're defensive and they want them gone. They are, they want to herd them, they want to corral them. Like they want them in the spot that they want them. So one of my boys, he absolutely loves to chase rabbits. Loves to. But he will catch them and hold them and wait for me. He won't hurt them at all. He'll wait, which drives me bonkers because you know how rabbits can scream mighty loud.
That's awesome, though. I like the fact. I wish somebody would use them kind of as
Yeah, it would be.
a herding dog. That'd be so cool.
It would be. I've talked to a few like ranchers, and they're like, I don't know. I just don't see a bulldog being able to do it. Which my biggest male is over 100 pounds. I'm like, look, he's over 100 pounds. He will go paddleboarding with us. He'll go to the river. He will swim for 5, 6 hours straight. He will never get tired. He will be the last to get out of the water. He can outswim me and my kids. They're not the typical lazy bulldog unless you want them to be, and they have such high endurance they don't get tired, like they're meant to work. And they're like, I just can't picture a bulldog doing that. Well, they can. And my kids take them skateboarding, they'll go skateboard by the hour, and they have the dogs pull them. They don't they're not running alongside them. My dogs pull them all over, and they love it because they're meant to be athletic and they're meant to work. To them, that's happy. So it would be really cool if a rancher would actually put one to work. It'd be interesting to see what they could do with them.
Yeah, working them in tandem with a border
Yeah,
collie or something, that would be awesome. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, definitely. No, there's not a doubt in my mind they could do a lot more. It's just finding that person that believes in them and is willing to work with them in that way. I think they would surprise a lot of people.
Talk about your reception here in the United States. What has that been like, and how have you gone about to get your name out there, and what does that look like?
That has been interesting. Um, I mean, obviously, we get tons and tons of questions, which I love questions. I've actually learned the most from questions that new families have asked me or people just have in general. Like, it keeps me always learning more. So I do appreciate that. Um, there's also so many people who they've never heard of them, which I completely understand because I hadn't either. But then you get that, like, they're a fake breed, or it's something you made up, or that's not real, or there's no way bulldogs can do that. So it's been an interesting journey. Um, I'm stubborn as heck, which definitely helps because somebody telling me no just pushes me to want to do it more. So I think all the extra questions and the people doubting us has definitely made me work harder at getting more out there about them. Like before, I never did social media. I absolutely hated it. But then I realized, okay, just a website and me advertising or hoping that people stumble upon my website and see these dogs, that's not enough. Nobody's going to learn about them. Nobody's going to take a chance on them. They're not going to see the different things that they can do if I don't push them out there more. And it was my husband who's like, hey, you need to like start social media. So we did. And I mean, there's always the negative backlash of people doubting, but over time, people have slowly come around. And I mean, the more answers I have for their questions, I think the more it also has pushed other people to research about them. And then, I mean, you always get the people coming back like, hey, I read this. Do you know this? Or have you heard this? Or it says this. What do you think about this? Or what's your experience? And I think just always being willing to answer as many questions as people have has gotten more people to, even just families who wanted a family pet, to take the chance and get one from us. And word of mouth has helped us significantly. Like every happy family tells all their family and friends, and it's it's definitely spread, which is nice. It's, I mean, it's still, I would definitely say it's still an uphill battle because I mean, I get asked to, okay, well, you have so many. What about when you're done breeding those? Are you going to bring more? Who's going to bring more? Or how will this keep going if you stop? Or how can we be in this for the long haul if how can we guarantee that this can keep going if we get a dog from you? Which I get all of that too, and I hope in time there's more people that are willing to dive in as much as we did, and we're not the only ones willing to bring them here, because that would be great. Like, this past year, I actually got them recognized by ABKC. They were never recognized before. They were CBKC and IOEBA. So I got them registered or recognized by ABKC about 5 months ago. So my next push is to get them in a show. Because if I can get them in a show, that's that many more people that will be forced to look at them. They may not agree with them. They may have a million questions, and that's fine, but that's still intriguing people's mind to take a second look. I think it's just more of a battle of the more you're willing to put yourself out there.
So, talk about some of the questions that you've gotten from people, especially in the bulldog world, and how have you been able to respond to them, and what is their response to you?
Um, let's see. Is this a breed you've made up? Absolutely not. And I definitely have spent my time. I mean, there's not a whole lot on the internet about them, which is a negative thing. But I definitely, anytime somebody asks, like, is this a breed you made up? No. Here's where it comes from. Here's references. I would definitely say the breeders in Brazil are a huge help because I don't always know all the answers. Like, I'm definitely learning along the way too. So when there's a question that comes up, like somebody asked me, what's the difference between an old time bulldog and the Campero? I had no idea. I knew they were in them, but what's the difference? So I mean, I'll be completely honest. I told them, like, I'm really not sure, but I will absolutely talk to the breeders in Brazil and I will figure it out and I will get back to you. And I did, and the difference is they're part of their ancestors. So the old time is made up of different combination than the Campero, and that is the difference. But they do have part of them in them. Okay, great. So I think the biggest question from families and breeders is, how are they different from an oldie, and why should I get one of those versus an oldie? And the second biggest or third biggest is, if I go with a Campero, how can I keep going? If there's so few of them here, if I want to breed or I want this to go further, how is that possible if you're the only one that's bringing them? And why are you the only one bringing them? If they're so great, why is nobody else doing it? A lot of what drew us to these, because they do definitely, I feel like they are always questioning, how can we make this better? Like, what can we add to this to keep making this a better functioning dog, a healthier dog? And I think that's really what has just absolutely hooked me. Sometimes I get frustrated and I'm like, okay, I can't keep doing this by myself. This is too hard. Everybody doubts us, but that lasts a whole 5 minutes. And then I'm back to, no, they're going to. Somebody's going to listen. We've definitely gained their respect, which it took a long time, which I completely understand. But um, Fernando he's amazing. I can message him anytime and he gets back to me within minutes. He's he's been an absolute blessing, and he's invited us to come over there, and we hope that one day he can come over here and actually see them in a show. It's always been his dream as well to get the breed here and build it up here. It's just never happened, which is unfortunate, but we'll get there.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's just time and just what you're doing. You know what I mean? You're kind
Yeah.
of promoting it. Um,
And
you know,
the English and Old English Bulldog is huge here. I mean, they're everywhere. And it is a hard thing to go against, and I get they're different. I know they're different. I completely get it, but I think there's definitely room for them.
okay, on those lines. So when you do talk to an old English person and you pique their interest, so and they see your dogs for the first time firsthand, what is their reactions, and what are some of the things that they say, and what is your response to them with their reactions?
I would say the biggest reaction that we get when people see them actually, like, in person, is um, they're so lean. They're a bulldog. Yes, they are. Oh my goodness, they can move. Like, they really move. Yeah, they do. And that's probably the biggest reaction. They're always shocked at their structure, how lean they are, and how much they can move. And then we get the whole health question list. Like, well, do they have this? Every bulldog is susceptible to, I mean, the hips, the eyes. That can happen with, and it's not just a bulldog thing. That can happen with any droopy eye breed. But is it common with them? Nope. They're bred for tighter skin. They breed to have their face tighter. They don't have the extra droopy. They don't have the. It's always interesting when an oldie person actually sees them and puts hands on them, because they are usually always shocked. And it definitely piques their interest, and it keeps them coming back with multiple questions. I've had several oldie breeders actually who've gotten 2 or 3 from me, because after the first one, they were like, this dog can move. Yep. This dog has the best temperament. Absolutely. I think it's just always the first initial shock of, yes, it is a bulldog. And yes, it is much healthier and it can function. I've talked to some stock dog people
Uh,
recently that and it's definitely piqued their interest, because they're like, wait a second, like, you're saying your bulldog can do the stuff my dog can do? Absolutely. Stick it out there with your dogs. Train it like your dogs. And you really think it can? Yes. Which has me super excited, because, like I said, I wish there was more people that would give them that opportunity. But I think once we get to the point of being in more of the homes of people like ranchers that do like the stock dogs and that sort of thing, I think it will open a whole new I think it will open a whole new world for them. And the Campero is so incredibly strong. I mean, they're incredibly strong. They're known for their strength. They're known for their jaw strength. And then when you put that with like their agility, I just think that there's so much more to be done with them, and that needs to be put out there with them. It's just coming across the right people who have the means to get them there.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, the sky's the limit. Uh, Yeah, I was thinking when I was asking questions about the oldie people, I could definitely see them being intrigued, but then I can also see them
But
being
not willing to, like, pull the trigger, and yes.
hesitant for one purpose because of the lean muscle.
Yep.
They don't have that thickness, right?
Yeah,
The
ab
girth.
absolutely. That is,
Yeah.
I would say that is that's every oldie breeder usually biggest, like, well, they would be amazing if they had more of the girth, or if they had more of the mass. They're not meant to. They're exactly what they're supposed to be, and this is what makes them so functional. I don't need a giant potato. But that is definitely what holds oldies back. They're like, well, if it had more mass, or if we could put the bigger, stockier head on it, they're not meant to have that. They were made for a purpose, and they're built this way for a purpose, and they don't need that to be considered a bulldog.
Yeah, people get wrapped up in the marketability of these things and what they think sells and what doesn't, instead of what they could turn around and market themselves and what is actually healthier and all that kind of stuff. So
Definitely.
talk about the health of the dog and what are some of the modern concerns that you guys have to be aware of and what you've heard about and maybe seen in some of your dogs.
So I would say probably the biggest health concern for any bulldog, or droopy eyed for that, would be entropion, which we've never had an issue with it, because, like I said, they breed for the tighter skin. So when we do pair ours and breed, we have some that have like the looser skin, and we have some that have much tighter skin. And that's definitely something we pay attention to, because we don't want to run into that issue, or we don't want to start creating that issue where the eyes could become a problem. So we definitely always try to pair, a tighter skinned with a looser skinned. And aside from that, I mean, the only other real thing you ever hear about with them is hips. But we work closely with the breeders in Brazil to make sure that we get quality dogs to start with, and we X-ray for hips, so we haven't ever ran into that problem, and I hope that we never do. It's something we're mindful of and we watch for, but those are really the only two biggest concerns you ever like even read about with a Campero is the eyes or hips, which we've never run into either, thankfully.
Right now, is your vision as you see it? Because I know things change the more you get into it, but presently, when you put a pairing together, what is your I and you're going to pick a puppy from that litter? What is your ideal Campero? What is the standard that you want in your program at this moment?
Um, I definitely go for structure first and temperament. Temperament, I mean, they come with a phenomenal temperament as it is, but that's something that is huge to me. As a mom, I have 5 kids. Um, my dogs are always around random kids. We always have friends over. We always take them to functions. So temperament is huge and structure because without a well structured dog, you have nothing to build off. So those are definitely my two what I look for.
Is there a size preference, or you just is structure beyond all and temperament just it doesn't matter what?
I mean, they have to meet a certain size. I want them to be to at least breed standard. I don't want to shorten them any. I don't want to make these massively huge dogs. So I definitely take it into factor. But I mean, they have to have the structure first. You can't build something great off a terrible structure. So we start with structure and temperament, and then definitely size plays into it, which I have a pretty good range of size now. So I'm able to, like with my smaller females, I can pair a bigger male, or if one's lacking mass, I have a massive male I can add to it. It's definitely played into it, but I would say first structure, then temperament, because I want to make sure every family gets a very well structured, well rounded. I don't want them to have health issues because of structure issues. I don't want them to have a not well rounded dog, which means it needs to have a good temperament. It needs to be good around other animals, people, kids. I don't want I don't want to start the breed off here on a bad note. I don't want to send a dog to a family that is not a full package, which they might not all make it to a certain size, which would be considered breed standard, which is okay if it's still a well structured, well tempered, well rounded dog. If it's a family pet, it's okay if that didn't make it to a size I'd like to see it to. It's still a healthy, confident, well rounded dog.
Did the ABKC did they take the Brazilian Kennel Club? Did they take their standards or
Um, so they did, but so we had to do we had to prove 10 generations of each dog. And then, of course, like the DNA, health, all that. And then they took their standards and they recognized the breed, but you have to show that for each dog in order to get them registered from ABKC. And then after that, we have to show them, and we have to show them in at least 3 shows before they will make them a recognized breed on their site or in their shows. So we can show up to a show and show them, but until we participate in 3 shows, they don't have their own standard. They'll be shown in just a bulldog class.
well that would be a fun process.
Yes.
You know what I
It's
mean? Yeah,
fun.
yeah, yeah. What the hell?
Yeah.
It'd be a learning process and fun to
I
see
have a
people's.
couple that I got as adults, and they were show dogs in Brazil, and that's like one of my goals this summer. I'm gonna go to a few shows. My husband's like, "You're crazy." That's okay. I'm doing it. It'll be fun.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I'm not gonna have another one to compete against, so I'll have to take like two of mine. I'll probably take like a male and a female, and they'll compete against each other, which is fine. It's still a win-win for me. But and it's not even about the winning. I just want more people to see them. They are a little different, but they're awesome. They're different in the best way.
Well, yeah, to me, that's what a dog show is. It's too much about trophies and ribbons nowadays.
Yeah, I don't even care about any of that.
Turning heads, it's all about the dog at the end of the leash, in my opinion. Like some of your best dogs to me are the ones that are probably outside the ring, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
don't care if we walk away with absolutely nothing. I just want to show up.
yeah. Yeah, and I think that's great marketing and to begin with. Yeah.
Definitely. People are still like, what do you mean they're recognized by ABKC? You know they have to be registered, right? I'm like, they are. How? Well, it took some work, but we've got it.
So 5, 10 years from now, where do you see your program?
Ugh, that's a good question. Um, my kids will all be grown by then. um, I do want I do want somebody to definitely carry on what we've started. So hopefully in 5 to 10 years, there's other breeders that are breeding our lines that we brought here, and I can just be proud that it's still going. I don't know that I necessarily want to be the one breeding all of them in another 10 years. 5 years, definitely. 10 years, I'm not so sure I do, but I definitely want to, I still want to see it going in a forward direction. I just hope that there's other breeders that have picked up where we leave off and keep going with it. I really want more of them like in family homes. They're phenomenal family dogs. So if in 10 years there's one in even every 5 oldie houses, I will be tickled to death. So I think it's just a matter of just getting people to take that chance. I will say most, not all, but a good percentage of people who have got a dog from us have come back for a second, which is definitely reassuring. We try to always tell people that, it's kind of like the best of both worlds. You can have the bulldog, you can have the bulldog look. Yeah, they look a little different, but I mean, you can still tell they're a bulldog, and you can have that lazy companion, but you can also have that get up and let's go hiking or active side. It's definitely a great balance, and you don't need to necessarily put in all the extra time and effort that you do to, like, say, the Frenchie.